Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Divers, you know for a fact, both Travis and I have been particularly busy. Travis is traveling, and I'm working on something else that'll be announced very soon, perhaps next Monday. Only above to say, watch the socials if you're following me at the SOTG as well. And I can assure you this isn't some random thing where I'm covering the Magic or something, which I am still doing on occasion. But no, this is directly related to your Jacksonville Jaguars out there, divers. So look out for that. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I do want to tease it. Like, you should tease the like button gently so you could follow us on the Duval Dive YouTube channel and all the subscribers and stuff. But training camp has been a thing. You've popped on the Duval Dive YouTube channel with some excellent shorts and some points. We've come at you there live from Miller Electric. And what's been the latest here on this Wednesday Eve? What are we, days 7 or 8 in now? See, this is the part where I start losing count.
We just had day 6 on Tuesday with return of the defense, man. Shout out, bounce back day for them. It's been all offense for much of this camp. And even when you have the quote unquote good days for the defense, it's just been back and forth, both sides kind of getting their punches in, and which is, again, it's not a bad thing. It's kind of what you want to see. But on Tuesday, Anthony Campanelli's unit, they showed out and let folks know, hey, not. Remember, we're here. Yeah, number 2 team in the league in turnovers. Yeah. Let's talk. And they
stopping the run. Stopping the run. Yeah, that's the thing. And I'm glad you brought that up. And I really wish I remember who it was on Twitter that said it. That made me kind of go, yeah, this is a good point. That's a good defense. Mm-hmm. If there's some struggles, it doesn't mean we start acting like Will Ferrell in what was it? The semi-pro. Everybody panic. No, we're not there.
I mean, we're not there. We're not there. But I mean, Liam Coleman has talked about it. Trevor Lawrence has mentioned it twice this offseason, that the offense is obviously ahead of where they were in the 2025 offseason. And they should have been, because again, you're in year 2 in this system. They were hitting on most cylinders at the end of the season. You're primarily looking at Parker Washington Jr., and now you're seeing kind of how some of that is looking even better when you're looking at Brian Thomas Jr., looking healthy, looking reasonably normal this offseason now in comparison to last season, where you can say, all right, well, this made sense that the offense was dominating early on. But again, the defense had to go into the classroom. They had to go into the lab and get it figured out. And they came back and made it that whole back and forth that you want to see, because defense matters. And you want to be able to stop a team when the game's on the line and not only have to require that your quarterback win it with less than 30 seconds to go or something along those lines. So that's a big takeaway. And I know a lot of the guys in the comments obviously want to talk about the offensive line.
We'll get there in a minute.
So many storylines.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. First of all, since you're out there at Miller Electric up there in the Jacksonville area, something else going on up there in Jacksonville. Shouts to Big Game James doing his thing. Long Beach Elementary doing one of the bag giveaways. MFTK in the building doing all the stuff. And yeah, I might get what the date on here is.
This Saturday.
I said Sunday. Excuse me.
This Saturday they have the backpack drive in Jacksonville. That's the biggest one that they have. He's already done Tallahassee and they've already done Orlando. So if anybody has kids that's going back to school or knows someone who is in need that's getting ready to go back to school, go to the website, register for any children to come and drive by and just get your backpacks. They're already filled with the supplies and everything else. And if anybody wants to volunteer or donate, the link is in our bio to both volunteer or to donate. So, handle that, because again, it's Duval supports Duval, and it's Duval versus all y'all. So support James in his 7th year, giving back to the community. Shout out to him. Shout out to Dan Media Group.
Yeah, for sure. And I for also for the YouTube people, but the podcast people there at the bottom where you register is jcolemangivesback.com. Yes, so make sure you make yourself a part of that. And then, of course, Also give to your local library for those who don't read and still have Big Cat Country read to them regularly so people could keep up with their Jacksonville Jaguars. Man. But I'm going to get in these comments because I might get a little triggered with some of the conversation we're about to have.
Okay.
But yeah, so, and you mentioned the offense, Reyes in the comments. By the way, shouts to our members doing their part and jumping in, and our commenters are already off the chain as we get off the round. Thank you again for that. Anik Reyes says, in BTJ we trust. Roberts Lemmonson, BTJ thumbnail is nice. I listen, it deserved it.
It is.
But no, we're gonna get in that some and Robert Lamison in the comments. Make sure I don't feel ignored. He comes in. Kyle, you played O-line. Is the transition from left tackle to guard that difficult in technique? I don't know. See, that depends on the player, right? And I'm going to toot my horn a little bit. In my day, I was, other than watching NFL football players, I might have had the best feet for among 300-pound guys you knew. So that put me at a bit of advantage. I was large, but I could move better than most large dudes. In conditioning, once I got 2 or 3 weeks, or I shouldn't say weeks, about a week in, I was one of the old linemen that wasn't necessarily dying at the end of practice. Did I still hate life as a fatty running a lot? You bet your entire rear end. But I was able to keep it together better and all of that. So the right type of athlete can transition well to what each position is asked to do differently. Okay. So I think that's the part that's most difficult is the type of athlete that you have, right? So I think that's step 1. 2, technique. The reason why the answer is yes is you have to be a lot more sound on the interior because the dudes are stronger and you're more likely to be giving up weight.
Mm-hmm.
On the tackle side, you probably have the weight advantage. So your footwork has to be stronger because you got dudes trying to zip by you. And we won't even get into what it's like with Myles Garrett or J.J. Watt or those extra dudes that are super fast on top of being huge. That's a separate question, but it's another difference in your preparation. You might be able to, make it a slugfest in a certain way in the interior, but you have to be both fast and strong against top-level talent, especially if you're playing left tackle, which is why we got so many conversations that we were having about the left tackle position. I made it full circle there. And he asks you, keeping with the O-line quickly, Robert Lambs in the comments, Travis, have you seen Wyatt Milam in any duo concepts?
Man, doggone well I'm not able to say if I did or didn't. That's way too specific. Jeez, you are trying y'all hardest to make sure I don't have a job. But how about this? I've seen Wyatt Milam. I've seen Wyatt Milam block in one-on-one scenarios, and I've seen Wyatt Milam block in movement, and I've seen them block in double team situations. That's probably as specific as I'm going to get.
Were you more impressed than you thought you would be? Because let's go back to the conversations you were having with Emery Hunt and JP Acosta, who were both dudes that think Pregnon would be starting ahead of Milam.
Yeah, and I think Pregnon is a whole different conversation by himself, just because I already had my thought process that he was going to be someone who comes along a little bit slower and going to be, if you're looking towards the middle and the end of the season, yes, that might be your starting right tackle, right guard, starting left guard, depending on what happens with Ezra Cleveland or if there's an injury or something like that. Cool. Wyatt Milam's a different thing because he's a developmental guy who they've already had in-house and they've seen and they've loved from every conversation with the staff, from every conversation with the players also. So Wyatt's actually looking good, and he's getting a lot more snaps because Patrick McCarry has been slowly pushed along this offseason as they're trying to make sure he stays healthy throughout this offseason program. And in the few splash plays that I have seen from Patrick McCarry, he's actually looked reasonably good. We talked about the first day in Shells where he had that, the whole opening play to Chris Rodriguez, the long run that he had. That was Patrick McCarry opening the hole. So in my head, I'm like,
that was a play where you had 2 dudes emerge you were wondering about. Well, I should say you as the general person observing camp, not just you, Travis Holmes. Like we all were just wait, that dude did that and that dude ran that? Okay.
That's a nice combination.
Exactly. Let's see. I'm going to go through some comments here rapid fire here because you guys have a lot of great questions. And Reyes, listen, Reyes in the comments also want to say thank you to you guys for the coverage from training camp. Listen, you guys really help make those hits where Travis is there at Miller Electric easy because you're in there asking the questions and keeping us going too. We're not just having to go, wow, the grass is pretty. Look, Eric Armstead walked. Okay, that was actually pretty cool. Well, but
it was fun. And Bayshaw Toot was literally right next to me. I'm trying to talk into the mic so you don't hear his interview taking place right here. But for me, it's like, no, at the end of the day, you guys continuing to ask the right questions keeps us on task and also reminds me of things that I meant to talk about that I didn't. I wouldn't have even talked about Parker Washington on the last on the last training camp hit if one of you didn't ask a question about him, like, oh yeah, that's right, let's talk about that. And it's just one of those things.
CJ was one that came up too, thanks to a question like that. I remember.
So shout out to y'all.
Storm the Desert. I wonder if Trevor would be the most overrated quarterback in football if he were tall, long, blonde-haired, big-arm QB and played for the LA Chargers. First of all, sir, I'll have you know, Trevor rules the long blonde hair conversation. However, and I'm going to say this just so let's keep this a buck. It's okay to feel like Justin Herbert has a pass. But can we please remember, and this isn't about Justin Herbert, this is about a lack of respect for offensive line play and its importance on the concept, okay? Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt-Delete were both hurt for significant portions, and that's just two of the linemen that were hurting at some point, okay? Let me be clear. They came out, and before it was cool, they made Patrick LaVon Mahomes II and company look bad. And then the Chiefs got more injuries, and then the Jags beat them, and then they got more injuries and looked worse and worse, right?
Yeah.
The Chargers were out of the gate. I think it was like week 3. They were down a lot of their O-linemen, certainly their best O-lineman. Rashawn Slater was off the docket before snap 1. And oh, by the way, at some point Herbert had to get a surgery. It's a whole thing. So
I've been in general agreement that the Chargers and Justin Herbert have gotten a raw deal as far as how folks grade him. No different than Trevor Lawrence, just up to another level. Trevor's on a different level.
Yeah. I but again, granted, there were some Texan fans, so obviously the analysis is not great. I say it jokingly and lovingly. Shouts to our friend Clayton, but it's okay to be critical of Herbert, but let's not go overboard. And can we please respect how much impact or lack thereof his O-lineman had there?
Sure. There. So we know there's going to be a boatload of training camp questions, and we're going to get through them, and we're going to weave them into the conversation because we have a lot to talk about. And a lot of it is weave within the training camp conversation because we've all been talking about how the Jaguars' vertical passing game has been the thing that's supposed to be.
Okay, so I guess Travis is done talking camp, is what he said.
No. We're gonna talk camp because we got a Branson Combs versus Ventrell Miller conversation that's obviously going to come up.
Well, that's the thing. I was gonna go, like I said, I was gonna do some of this lightning round here. Of all things,
sure.
Talk about passing.
Let's game show it.
Combs, first of all, your spelling's a little hairy for Combs. But yeah, he's been coming out of nowhere with camp. I gotta say he's been seizing the opportunity. You guys are in here noticing that as well.
He's the better guy in pass in the coverage area, and I think Ventrell's just that downhill knock your head off guy. Like, and it's not to say Branson Combs can't be that guy also, but I think that's just where both of those guys' strengths lies.
I've never heard a story of Miller going stride for stride with Parker Washington and breaking up a pass, for example. I don't know that that's what happened, but I've never heard that story either. Derek in the comments, by the way. So
absolutely having
Darian's had a heck of a camp. Yes, says Reyes in the comments. Shadow Blades. I hope before week 1, Parker will get extended. I don't want to see him in a different colored jersey. It depends on what point of view you have. I think Parker, the longer the Jags wait, the more Parker Washington's going to charge, and we'll get into that later. Preston, and this is a comment I wanted to get to that's short and sweet. There's usually a few market corrections in camp. Combs, Milam are just a couple that are coming up, and I'm sure we could list a lot more. Old Vet has some awesome comments here that'll open a whole can. I will put a star by those so we can get by those later. I love him asking, what is the one unit you guys are looking forward to seeing most? We will get to that at the end of the pod, sir, because to Travis's point, we do have to break down this deep pass. That's a whole other conversation that even goes back to the playoff game. And matter of fact, yeah, I think we can get there too. But look at you guys in the comments chopping it up before we even get to it. I love it.
I love when they have those conversations back and forth with each other, and it's just like, oh, hey, we're here too. Appreciate y'all. Love it.
when we go back and scout watch what we've done, we'll get some popcorn and watch y'all talking. It's cool. No, it's a whole thing. But and it's okay, Robbie. We forgive you for being a little late. It's all good.
Appreciate you, Robbie.
And we got to get social too. Okay. Travis, something we as analysts, divers, card carrying or honorary, have been pounding the table about since the Buffalo game, and we don't need to rehash it, other than run the ball and, take the points, is the deep ball passing, or rather the lack thereof. And I think we've cited this on some episodes of the dive here. Certainly some of your hits from Miller Electric there, that they've been taking those shots and they've been trying them, right? Robert Lamison earlier said, in BTJ we trust. You have quite the presentation. I don't know where exactly you're going with this. Like, to put it behind the curtain, Travis does a lot of preparation. Sometimes I'll help more than others. This is one I didn't have a lot to do with. So I basically stayed out of the folder wondering where he was going with this, because I'm curious myself. Now, I don't know what to expect.
Well, we've had a lot of conversation about this deep passing game, and rightfully so. It's been on fire early in camp, to the point where the defensive backs had to kind of put the big boy pants on and get ready for what's to come. You've seen all the highlights on the socials from the Jaguars receiving group. But the question remains, this is a short offseason. We are approaching joint practices next week, and that's the crazy part, right? And you have Liam Cohen out in the streets letting the receiver group and the fan base know we're going to be running 3 out of every 4 plays. And that is not a paraphrase.
What I said to the guys yesterday, I brought Jacoby in and Parker and BT and talked to those guys. This past spring, that was past camp a lot. That was us getting better in the past game. And I do believe we took another step in the past game this spring, without question.
Okay.
Now, this training camp, I told those guys, there's going to be less balls. There's just going to be less balls in the air. We have to run the ball in training camp. So, in team run, if it's a rack of 4 plays, 3 of those are going to be runs. 1's going to be a pass.
And that's interesting.
Right. So then that leads me to the next question of, all right, cool. I'm happy to see that this vertical passing game is looking good, because we've seen the opposite of this. We saw last offseason when you and I sat down on this same podcast. And for those of you who don't remember, we have a Bahamas video that took place in June last year where we're reviewing Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter and all these guys practicing together as they're throwing balls. And I'm like, and I said it on that podcast then, I'm like, yo, this ain't it. This is not going, if this is what it ends up being in the season, they're going to struggle with the deep ball. We said it on that podcast with all of you guys listening, and they struggle in the season throwing the deep balls. Trevor's actively saying in those videos, hey, I'm late on that one, which we know Trevor was coming off of his surgery and everything else. We knew the context within that and why that could be the case. And they struggled for much of the season. And then you see later in the season where all of a sudden it's getting a little bit better, but it's not exactly where you want to be. And now we see what it looks like when it should be firing on all cylinders early in this offseason. So we have to ask the question, if Liam Cohen's saying, hey, man, we're going to lean into the run game now. We got to get these tight ends right and working better with the offensive line. We got to figure out all these changes and get this downhill rushing attack right. 3 out of every 4 plays is going to be running the ball. Then I have to ask the question, is this what are close to what we're going to see in week 1 for this Jacksonville Jaguars vertical passing game? And if it is that enough, or is there something that we still need to work on? Because I haven't heard many people in this Duval devout fan base and media talk about the specifics of what they're seeing on the field. And I'm going to say it despite nobody else saying it right now. So what we have been talking about is, oh man, great one-handed catch. That was a great play, good catch down the field, and all of these things. And rah, everybody, Jaguar Super Bowl. This is what you're hearing in the media right now. that is what you're hearing, and it's not a bad landing point. But what you're not hearing is
it's certainly different. We'll lead with that, right?
But what you're probably not hearing is like, let me just write that down. That was an overthrow of BTJ 20 yards down the field, and he missed him by about 15 yards over that one overthrow. All right, cool. Next practice, that's 2 overthrows of Parker Washington. That's wide open. That's got to be a touchdown. If this is a game situation, you can't miss that. Okay, next practice. He missed him on the seam pass. It's just one of those things, and it's not you're not expecting perfection, but you are expecting consistency in what you're seeing because perfect preparation provides for, if you practice perfectly, then you're going to hit it in the game. If you can't hit it in practice, you're probably not going to hit it in the game, especially if you're not having more reps doing it in practice. And Liam Coleman told you directly, you're not going to get those reps this preseason because it's all about the running game. You still with me where I'm at right now?
Yeah. No, I hear you trying to support ESPN, putting Caleb Williams ahead of Trevor. And sorry.
Oh my gosh. So all I'm looking at is when I review what we had last year and look at the problems that we have. A lot of people point to Brian Thomas Jr. and they'll say, hey man, BTJ, he struggled last year. And they were right. He was obviously not himself. He had his issues.
Hell, the receiver core outright was struggling with drops at a point, right?
But if we're talking the deep passing game early on in the season, and that was not a Trevor Lawrence issue. So for those of you on the YouTube side, I'm showing you a picture of the catchable ball rate from Sports Information Solutions, which is SIS. That's the catchable pass rate in that far right-hand corner. That's telling you that the deep ball passes out of 111 NFL wide receivers to be targeted 30 plus times in the 2025 season, Brian Thomas Jr. ranked 104th in catchable ball rate.
Yeesh.
With De'Ami Brown also in that same range. So again, that tells you there that was.
So that means De'Ami Brown's 102nd for those who can't see the picture on the pod.
So that lets you know that the deep ball issue specifically was not Brian Thomas Jr.'s issue. His issue was drops in the short range. His issue was running across the middle and maybe even an injury situation that was going on because he says it no longer hurts to run. I got to take him at his word there. Yeah. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, then I'm saying, all right, cool. That was the issue for Brian Thomas Jr., just not being able to get hit by Trevor Lawrence on those deep balls. Because it wasn't his routes. He was, again, out of those 111 wide receivers that have over 14 yards average depth of target, BTJ was ahead of 3 receivers in the NFL. Mike Evans, A.D. Mitchell, and Deontay Thornton. That's it. So there was a true issue, and I'm happy that they took it head on this offseason. Liam Coleman's talked about it in multiple interviews. Trevor Lawrence has talked about it in multiple interviews. They know it was an issue. They've seemed to have gotten a lot of it right. And I say that because Trevor Lawrence has shown it in practice. Those bucket throws, he on one. He's gotten this piece right. Like he's putting over guys' shoulders. He's putting it in the bread basket. You see the Travis Hunter catch as he climbs the ladder over Hodges, his old teammate from Colorado. You got the BTJ catch over Monteric Brown in the bread basket. A lot of catches with no room. These are perfectly thrown balls by Trevor Lawrence. So shout out to him for getting that piece right, because you're not seeing these guys like burning past these cornerbacks. They're right in the pocket. That's the good thing. That's my biggest good takeaway from this is like we saw that there was an issue last year, and I think he got that part right. Trevor Lawrence did.
Well, and let me add this to it too, because this is the whole iron sharpening iron concept. We again cited that this defense being what it is. You've been stoked about the corners dating back to criminy June sooner. I don't know. But you knew that group was going to be something special, even when, Ian Rappaport was all, he's only going to play defense. Yeah, I'm going to be talking trash on that for some time. And I'll do it. You know what? I might do it while I move to London, allegedly, right? I said what I said. Anyways, I'm feisty tonight. Anyways, so all that being said, maybe there's some element of that forces Trevor to put that biscuit in the basket in the particular way that he's been doing it, perhaps.
Maybe, because again, you're not. I thought it was interesting though, because there's a different issue with all these receivers. And I was listening to the podcast yesterday with friend of the pod, Brett Coleman. He was on with me, Mina Kimes, yesterday, and he dropped this nugget. Like from weeks 12 through 18 of the 2025 season, the Jaguars had 44 deep pass attempts, and they only caught 20 of those. These are the passes over 20 yards. Now, of those, BTJ caught just 3 of them. So it was like, oh, wow, that's a lot. And he's like, and Parker Washington was triple that amount. And I'm like, oh, okay. So Parker Washington was getting way more than BTJ, but BTJ's, he kind of got it right when he returned in week 13. If you saw where his targets were earlier in the season, went, from 7 to 5, but his catch rate went up, his yards per target went up, his drop rate went like significantly down.
His first 4 weeks murdered him.
It sank his numbers in a lot of ways. Yeah, you're not wrong on that. So then overall, like BTJ and Trevor kind of started figuring it out even then in the season, and then they got it right later, this offseason as they continued working together. So again, I saw positive, the arrow pointing up at that point. But the biggest question was, all right, cool. If all these things are great, Travis, then why are we talking about this, right? If he's hitting the bucket throws and all of this is happening, because that inconsistency that I talked about earlier, those overthrown passes are still happening. Again, he missed 2 for Parker Washington that should have been touchdowns. He missed the 1 from BTJ that would have been a 30-yard gain, maybe even more. Like there is these things where the spring still comes out and you're just like, ooh, that was a rough one. All right. So, and if you don't get it right in practice and you're not getting the reps, then you're not going to get it right in the game, because we've seen that in action. We've actually seen them have the misses in the game. The missed overthrow to Parker Washington during the Miami joint practices. For those who weren't there, they had the clip on the socials. If you missed it, I'm sorry. I couldn't even find it to try to show it to you guys. But that was that like a post route down the seam in cover 2 coverage. You got the missed overthrow to Christian Kirk in the 2024 season, and you got the missed overthrow to Parker Washington against the Houston Texans. Like it was a post route. If you continue missing on those, because those are Parker Washington's best routes, then you're going to struggle. And that's my big thing is like, all right, on the deepest of the deepest throws, those sideline go routes, if you're BTJ, are you going to hit him on those? Sounds like Trevor Lawrence's answer with a convincing yes there. Shout out to him. Good job. Let's keep that moving. But then the next question is, are you going to be able to hit Parker Washington on those post routes in stride and not overthrow him, not make him have to go down to the ground and make an easy catch wide open with 10 yards of space look difficult? That's another question, because again, we've seen that Parker Washington catch in camp and everybody's raving about the catch, and they should be, because it wasn't a good throw. No, that's the big part. He had the baseball slide to grab it from the turf to make that happen. It looked great for the socials, but it didn't make you feel good if you're thinking about this from the perspective of, hey, these are your layups. Hit your layups, take the points, do not pass go, do not collect $200, ball out of control, like all that. So that's my unfortunate way that I'm looking at this, because their schedule is not going to be easy early on. So you're going to have to be able to hit on these, because it's a murderous row, unfortunately. I'm just calling a spade a spade.
And again, well, and if it's this is the thing, and this is why all of it is fascinating to talk about, but we really don't know until we know, right? So what if, again, the defense is just that good, and what if the only way they can score is Parker Washington getting a sliding catch like that, and they only scored because Trevor is better than you and ESPN? I'm joking. Than ESPN believes that he is, right?
You're saying what you have to say, but Parker Washington was 10 yards open on that play. You might not see
it. On that particular play, that's all Parker. Let's not get stupid.
Wide and heck open.
Do not put words in my mouth. I'm talking about overall. Let's be careful here. Now, baseball slide for sure. Yeah, safe. I get you. Like if we were, the reason why it's funny is how close the Jumbo Shrimp Stadium is, man. It's perfect. Okay. But
it's the consistency. That's the next step in this maturation. If we can't get the consistency, then you don't know if you're going to have, like, I don't believe Trevor's going to have stretches of the season where he's inconsistent. But if you're talking games, this day, this Sunday, he woke up just off, and then this day, that's a normal thing for a lot of quarterbacks. But hopefully, you can turn those I had a bad game into maybe I had a bad quarter or a bad few drives.
Well, and that situation is how you end up not putting any points on the board and allowing the defense to be in a position to give up 19 straight points in the fourth quarter.
Or just that's how you get into a situation against the Buffalo Bills where you simply don't attack deep at all. You don't try them deep at all. Probably because maybe you're not as confident that you're going to be able to hit on those deep balls because you've shown that throughout much of the season.
I picked the Texan game because I believe Cole Van-Lanen was still healthy at that point. So
I don't want to talk about the doggone Texans game, but that still made me mad that they lost a 19-point comeback to Davis Mills and allowed the Texans to talk trash all offseason. Ugh.
I mean, it was fun for them doing it, from their couch, watching their quarterback potentially lose an extended payday, but I digress.
Such a good conversation last night on some Texans. It wasn't even a podcast, on Texans on TikTok. Shout out. And if you want to do all dive on TikTok also, if you guys ever want to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Chat, please.
Travis done a great job building the TikTok. Listen, I'll say it up front. I am awful on TikTok. I better learn it real fast, I guess, but I am.
No, but guest low. Shout out to my editor, my managing editor over at Big Cat Country. Put out this on the socials. The Jaguars opening schedule of opposing cornerbacks makes you go, You got Denzel Ward week 1, Pat Surtain week 2, and Parker Washington kind of owned him already, so maybe you're not nervous about that.
Wow,
who knows? Christian Gonzalez, who BTJ owned in his rookie season. All right, cool. That's it. Also another one. DJ Turner in week 4, Quinion Mitchell in week 5, Derek Stingley Jr., and then you have a bye week with Sauce Gardner and the Indianapolis Colts wrapping that bad boy up in week 8. So this is a stretch because the Jaguars, if you're looking from the fantasy perspective, have the most difficult, number 1 in the league, most difficult defensive stretch to pass against, and for wide receivers also. After you get through that, they have a top 5 easiest stretch of games also. So again, you got to start off hot, and that's why I'm asking the question now as we head into joint practice weeks, because if you're not there right now, you might not have a lot of time to get there because you're going to be throwing 1 out of every 4 plays. So per Coach Liam Cohen, it's about the run game. It's about those tight ends, and it's about that O-line and getting that thing started. So get it right, man. Hopefully they can.
There's a lot of great comments here, Preston. Here, though, I got to address this, okay? And Preston, man, listen, your realism among fans is appreciated. I would add this. Let me say what his comment is first. Of course, PT Phone Home Preston. That's puzzling, to be honest, with our passing game. They're going to run the ball. As a passing offense, we're elite. As a running offense, we might not be a playoff offense. Here's the thing. You hate this take. I'm getting the Josh Allen, I don't know face, or Josh Hines Allen, I don't know face. Damn. Here's the thing, and I would remind this, and granted, forgive the use of an AFC South rival. I'm speaking as a bit of an NFL historian here, not necessarily the host of the Duval Dive. I was the student of the game for 2 different versions of that podcast before I dove in here with you, Duval Devout, such that it is. And I'll say this. Peyton Manning won his first Super Bowl with balance.
Yep.
He had a great running back in Edgerrin James.
Mm-hmm.
People would say that when Edge went over to Arizona, he took a downgrade with one Joseph Adai. A lot of you may not even remember that name, and I wouldn't blame you. But as a rookie, he got a ring, and he did it with Peyton Manning there. But why couldn't he do it with Edge? That's a great question. Because Joseph Adai was drafted as the best blocking running back in that draft. The protection was accounted for. Something the Jags have struggled with is that. Okay? So this element where blocking is increased, the threat of running the ball still remained with Joseph Adai. People made that mistake. Oh, it's Peyton Manning. I'm scared. Here goes Joseph Adai running the ball. Dominic Rhodes was a thing back then. Again, maybe not even a Pro Bowler at the time. Be back when you had to at least work a little bit potentially to get to the Pro Bowl. Maybe. I don't know. It's a conversation. But these were guys that provided upgrades in other ways that weren't flashy.
Sure.
Like Edgerrin James. See what I'm doing there?
No.
They ran the ball well enough to provide balance for a top-notch passer who was a first-round pick early with a set of receivers that had guys that were great and also slept on. The only thing those Colts didn't have that these Jags do is a two-way player.
Let me ask this very
well,
directly.
the O-line too.
I just gotta ask this very directly. Preston, I don't know how bad this run game has to get before you come join me on my side of the line. Join me in saying eventually you have to be able to run the ball. We've talked about how I forget the exact number, but I believe they were like 27th in yards before contact. It was like less than it was like around 0.6 yards per rush before contact in the NFL. That's not going to get it done. They were near bottom of the league when you're talking about yards. Even just talking success rate. If we're talking about all the things that result in you staying on the field, keeping the chains moving, and you can't do that, you're making it so much harder. You're forcing your quarterback to play on all Madden. And while that sounds great for the Madden crowd and fantasy football crowd, that is not good for winning football and consistency. It is
easy on Brandon Howard. By the way.
It is simply not. And eventually you got to say, damn it, I'm going to run the ball. And I'm going to be able to convincingly and consistently run the ball. Otherwise, you're back in the Doug Peterson time frame where you just give in to not being able to run the ball, bro. They are saying we are going all in, full steam ahead. We're going to fix this run game. And the only way you get to fix this run game is by having reps. So if you have a team period, you only got one ball on the field. You have to be able to run it or pass it. We're saying we're going to run it 3 out of 4 times because we're going to get this right before the lights come on. I don't see a problem with that. So they're not saying that's what's going to happen in the season. They're saying that's what's going to happen right now so that when the lights turn on, we are good.
We'll come back to Darren because this matches Social Alky's comment perfectly. He didn't say that, Liam Cohen didn't say that exactly. The majority of these practices are without pads. He said when pads are on, they're going to focus more on the run game.
That's it.
And because it doesn't matter when you don't have pads, when you're running the damn ball. My favorite part of practice was inside drills. This shell crap was all conditioning. I hated it. It's rough then doing it.
So let them know. I'm like, hey man, you gotta be able to run the ball. And they didn't draft a quote unquote blocking tight end and draft a man of men, Emmanuel Pregnon, as a blocking. Well, I say blocking guard. There's a non-blocking guard, but you know what I'm saying. a big old behind grown man who can move people to then not practice running the ball. What we doing? Come on.
So no, I'm with that. But Preston, I hear your point and your concern. But if you have balance, you're a better passing game. Period. Point blank. I think Derek tells it here. The hope is you become a reliable running offense to the point opposition has to respect it. Going into the season, opposing defenses are going to game plan the pass, need to run the ball effectively. There's another element I'd say too, right? Okay. And again, trench warfare point of view. If I come in and go through a beep's face, per Marshawn Lynch, and I demoralize him, he's going to be running less fast. This is a psychological game. This then, by extension, weakens the pass rush mentally. I mean, it ain't gonna work on Myles Garrett, but it might slow Jared Verse if Anton's beating him a little bit.
Yeah. Run through a mug face in the words of the famous Marshawn Lynch. That's it. That's how you establish the running game. And that Travis Etienne is no longer here, so we can't make Etienne great again. But
I appreciate you bringing up Lynch too. By the way, as a diabetic, that's the closest I can get to Skittles. Anyways,
jeez. But no, that's how you win. That's how you win. Establishing the run. I mean, we know this, man. So I'm not gonna belabor that point or hammer it home, but you get the gist of it. The man saying they're gonna have to establish the run game. They already drafted multiple tight ends. So they've obviously drafted a dominant, man gap sort of offensive lineman, Emmanuel Pregnon. And of course they're going to try to establish the run. They brought in Chris Rodriguez, who's already running through a muff face. Like what he did to Caleb Ransall wasn't even fair. Welcome to the NFL. So now we all know what we're dealing with right now. And I think that's a fine place to be if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, because you weren't there last year. You were not a physical bunch. You were not running through people. You were not falling forward. And now you can say objectively, you are there. Now, can you keep that consistent is the next question.
No, but for sure. PJ Brown in the comments already called his shot. 31-13 Jags week 1. I need to know the wager you've placed on that, PJ.
Yeah, PJ and his wagers, man. That man, he's so doggone good.
Remember, for entertainment purposes only. So yeah. And yeah, we were gonna go with looking at a few other things here. Man, you guys are talking to each other a lot too. And of course, social. Thank you, social. I got it. He's right. I got to play it and remind these cats what exactly is going on here. I can't. Shoot. I can't find it. Drat. Well, oh, here it is.
I mean, listen. We talking about practice, not a game. Not a game. We talking about practice.
It's got to be said. It's got to be said.
Yeah. I mean, you got the whole conversation surrounding CJ Williams and James Cameron. We got that going on. I think both of those guys are pretty much locked into the roster at this point. I don't think that's even a question. Shout out Jason, Jaguars United, lurking as always. And he had a great pod yesterday, I believe it was, just talking about his favorite formations and going through all of those. So yeah, shout out Jason. That's good stuff. If you guys haven't subscribed over to his Jaguars United channel, yeah, definitely give that tickle that like button, tickle that subscribe button.
You know, don't throw a chair at it. You might hurt him a little bit. He's not as fat as I am. Man, wow. Let me get some. Oh, look at this. He's going with wing T.
Wing T. All right, you sound like someone who loves Liam Cohen and his dad used to coach that wing T.
Listen, and Jason, for those that really know the ball in new school or old school, right? I was athletic enough to run the wing T, whether at guard or tackle. You got to move when you were a guard. The other thing too is I knew the playbook better than everybody that wasn't the center, so there was that.
Yeah, 3 inches from the ground. I generally wouldn't even acknowledge the comment like this. His comment says, "I think Van-Lanen is more hurt than they're letting on." I actually wanted to respond to this specifically because I've talked to so many people in the media as we're actively looking at him working out.
Yeah,
I think he looks perfectly healthy. I think he looks 110% healthy, and they're just being smart about bringing him along slow. Looking at his movement skills and all of that, I think he looks like if he had to, and this is a Super Bowl, could he suit up tomorrow? I don't know. I think so. Just looking at how he play. Yeah. Right. Like I think there's a difference between being in shape and being in football shape. That's why they move guys along slowly so they don't have any setbacks and things of that nature. But his movement skills, he's looking nice. So that's why I don't agree with that thought process.
I mean, for context, Mike, it's a follow up on the wing T thing. Mike Clayton here in the comments played fullback in college, and then also wing T, left tackle. That's the kind of athlete you got to be to do that. Granted, I wasn't that fast, but that's cool. The wing T is the thing. We started last year about his wing T and offenses. You'll see in the NFL. Preston in the comments. Oh my goodness, I need to be outside to hide under that shade. Ray is in the comments. I'm wondering if they're trying to get the run down because of the early schedule. I was going to go here, and I'm glad you did. This and again, to Travis's point, late last year while I was on assignment, this team is great at self-scouting.
Mm-hmm.
The same way last year, I was calling which games I think Travis Hunter would have more reps offensively, the Bengals, etc. I think you're calling, Travis, the self-scouting with how often they're going to run the ball, especially with the list of secondaries that are being faced here. I think that's a great point.
Yeah, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you have to pass the ball, consistently and be in 3rd and long. Like they lived in 3rd and long the end of last season. I don't think folks realize that. And I wish if I had known this was going to come up in conversation, I would have had the stats in front of me. But I remember it from last season where the Jaguars were very consistently in 3rd and long, and Trevor Lawrence and goodness gracious, Trevor Lawrence and Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers and those guys were just awesome at those contested catch situations. Like again,
I was going to say
most NFL teams are around that 50% mark will make you elite in contested catches. And Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington last year were around like 65, 64%. They were catching balls in traffic often and making this thing keep moving along. And because of that,
weren't both of Travis Hunter's signature catches on third and longs?
no, you're not wrong, but I'm primarily talking towards the end of the season because that point I'm making.
Oh, I'm just putting icing on your cake, baby. We good.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, because again, my landing point there is the Jaguars at the end of the season were living in third and long, and it didn't matter because these guys were just making the catches. But if you don't want to live in that situation where you think that that's a highly volatile situation, you don't see that being easily able to be replicated, then you want to establish the run to not have to live there. I'm happy you can do it, but don't make it so that you have to do it.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, fam. Divers in the comments. I'm speaking to you when I say fam this time, guys, because there's so much. First of all, thank you, everybody, right now, real quick, while I'm thinking about it, for helping to make this definitely the most successful sports endeavor in media I've done. Thank you for that, real quick. I think it's worth pointing out the shortest way to explain this is something that's used so much because it's become a platitude that people ignore. How many times have you heard football's a complementary game?
Yeah.
You don't do one great without the other 9 times out of 10. There are exceptions, right? Aaron Charles Rodgers as a Packer was the only quarterback I see be successful and win a Super Bowl with what I think is probably one of the more overrated offensive lines I watched. No disrespect to Bakhtiari and those cats, but overall, you weren't it, generally speaking. Now, granted, playing in the AFC North that year, I get it. But, man, and it was because Aaron Charles Rodgers, had he played in New England, perhaps, would have just as many rings as Brady did. And he could run the football. But that's a separate conversation I'd like to chop up another time, perhaps. But the punchline being, generally speaking, it's the complement, right? You don't want a team, whether it's Russell Carrington Wilson or Aaron Charles Rodgers or Trevor Lawrence, where your quarterback's your top runner. That means generally something's gone wrong. And that's all we're trying to do is keep an offense balanced and keep the quarterback out of harm's way.
No. Sure. Yeah. I don't really have a response to that other than, I think I'm in general agreement. I'm just checking out these comments and they are on fire, bro.
Listen, as much as he hates Trevor Lawrence, Jason Trent saying that he liked us. Thumbs up on the video. Appreciate you, brother.
He is never going to get away from those allegations, bro.
No, man. Listen, at this point, I've been clinging to the bit so long. I know I overplay it, but listen, all three of us laugh at it every time. I'm just saying. Yeah.
So we got a lot of good comments. I don't know if you want to breeze these bad boys out before we get out of here.
There's so many of them. I'm having trouble picking. You guys are giving me the best problem I've ever had as a producer.
We told old vet we want to circle back to his part.
Oh, snap. I got a bunch I saved here. Cool. All right, here we go. I wanted your version of this. What is the one unit you guys are looking forward to seeing the most?
So are we talking joint practices and live? Is that where we are? Because I see them all the time. So from
let me set the stage and Vet can correct it in the comments. I'm getting it wrong. You're most excited to see this unit and what they will be week 1. Which unit is it?
Okay. Then I'm looking at the defensive line. I'm looking at specifically the interior defensive line. Yeah. I need to know that they can do this when it matters most. I need to know that they can give me some pressure from that interior because we know the edges are already. We know who they are. We know who Josh Hines-Allen is. We know who Trevon Walker is. We don't really know who Ruka Roro is. And I presume they are going to limit Arik Armstead's snaps. You know who he is for the most part.
Load management, correct.
Load management. So then what does that mean for all the rest of the guys? What does that mean for Albert Regis? Because I haven't seen much from him either, and I know that's not necessarily his game in the pass rush game, and we're still week 1 in pads. So when the lights come on, I'm looking at that interior defensive line very closely, magnifying glass, because I need to see some interior rush, because when the games are down to the last 2 minutes, I need to have confidence that they're going to be able to get a sack or get a pressure to shut the door, man. That's it.
Social's second place answer was that he came out with running backs. I think that's a fine answer. Jason Trent, tight ends, of course. With all this draft type, you got to be interested in how wrong the consensus was. I'm with
Everybody's interested in finding out what Nate Brokature is, and that he's probably gonna have some extra eyes on him just because folks gonna be waiting to say, "Ooh, I told you he's this or that." But Britton Strange didn't do much his rookie season, and then he was Britton Strange. So I don't know.
Britton Strange had a lot of other stuff going on that year. I think was Evan Ingram was still on the roster.
Evan Ingram, and you had Luke Farrell that was in front of him, so he ended up being the first free tight end.
That. I mean, maybe Luke Farrell shouldn't have been in front of him, but I digress. The other piece there too is, listen, a tall tight end. He's 6'7". You got to remember Koziel. He's part of this equation.
Yeah.
If I don't do it, I feel like I'm disturbing my son.
I knew.
But for me, here, let me show the credentials. There's my answer. Yelp. I want to see where they put the different people on the offensive line. Okay. Mm-hmm. What do they come out? What do the starting five look like? Or all this left tackle Anton Harrison stuff, was that all hype? I don't know. Because for as healthy as he might look in camp, Travis, you know better than I do, and I have to be honest, some of the pictures I've seen of him rehabbing, I'm like, that's interesting. But I am curious to see what they come out with. Is this a situation similar to what, and I've made this point before, what put Walker Little on the map when Ken Robinson got suspended, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I want to see what happens with Pregnon or Milam. What about Macari? Is he hurt? Man, listen, just go watch the short on the Daily Ball Dive YouTube channel. I say it there too. So. Yeah,
that's what I mean. The offensive line. So basically, I think we're all saying the same thing, because even when folks say I want to watch the running backs, it's not the running backs that you want to watch, and I think you know that it's the offensive line. You're just saying running backs are going to produce, sure, but if they threw the ball to the running backs and they caught a pass, you'd be fine. But you really want to stay. What you really want is you want to see the Jacksonville Jaguars running backs run through a mud face. We know that that's what this is. So just say that. I want to see the offensive line move, dudes, like Ludacris, move, get out the way. That's what we're talking about. So let's just talk. Let's just say that directly. We got to run from it. It's football.
No, I'm with it. Here's where I'll give social some credit, because the wavelength I felt is for how many people. And listen, I'm not going to say where I heard it, but in Roman numerals it would be XX. That's all I'm saying. But the talk of plainly acting like these running backs are terrible is too much. And the opportunity to think that they're overthinking that is there. I think that's what social's excited for. And I'm with all of that. But really, while the answers have been all over the place, I've even seen linebackers, wide receivers, both great points. Preston coming off the top rope. Shoot. I just want to watch the Jaguars. There you go.
I just need some live games. I do understand. And that's fair too. I mean, this is all great and dandy, but it all matters most when the lights come on. But to my earlier point, if you don't do it in practice, you're probably not doing it in the game. Like, there are people who can be considered gamers and they just are better as a gamer. But for the most part, if you're talking about 11 guys, we've seen so many times in the 2023 and 2024 seasons where the Jaguars will have 10 guys on the field, they get it right, and one guy screws up every other play. And it's never even the same guy. It's Calvin Ridley this play. It's Trevor Lawrence the next play. It's the running back not blocking on the next play, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's always a different rotating guy and it just feels like can't get right. Yeah. If you can't get it right in practice, you're unlikely to get it right in the game. So I'm looking forward to them getting it right in practice. So I have confidence that they will get it right when it matters most. I don't think that's a crazy point of landing on. So I understand you're looking forward to the games. I'm looking forward to competitive practices, and they have the next one. What's that? The teal and black game on Friday, I believe. So I look forward to that's the next test.
I got 4 more comments I want to drop here before we get out here. Social in the comments, does LeQuint Allen Jr. size concern you? He's thinner than I thought. Okay, social. Be tight. Okay. I know that you're looking at science and physics, and I understand that. But psychology can be an art form sometimes. When you are willing to get in Max Crosby's face like a nut job, when you can make a dude fold in half, when you run out your damn mind, and create fumbles on special teams while you're at it. It's not all the physical. So, man, listen, I got to drop the platitude because I don't know that there's a better way to explain it. It's not always the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. And LeQuint Allen Jr. is a dog. And that's all I have to say about that. But I like the question, Social. I appreciate you.
I'm just saying, bro, like Mike Tyson is 5'10". I don't care how big or how small this man is. I've seen what he does to grown men on the football field. I do not care about this man's weight. I've seen who he is. I've seen the dog that man is. I am not concerned. If you are concerned, go take a walk. You are looking for things to be concerned about. I am. If he is comfortable with it and his coaching staff is comfortable with it, I'm comfortable with it. It is what it is, bro.
By the way, I think I see a simulation of what it's like when LeQuint Allen is flying at you. Bam! Anyway, that's what we haven't gotten to use much. I saw the opportunity. Sunstain in the comments. Good to see you, Sunstain.
Sorry. My apologies. That was a mistake.
How has Josh Cameron been? There it is. I believe I saw you on Twitter, Travis D. Holmes, say he's very likely on the 53.
No, ain't no likely about it, brother. He is on the 53. He is on the 53. Yeah, he is on. If he ain't on the 53, it's because they're stashing and he's injured. He had a hangnail in camp and they just thought to put him on the IR or something along those lines. No, he is on the 53 because he's getting some reps, some really competitive reps. Like even when he loses a rep, I'm like, all right, that's good. That's some good competition right there. And I'll say it. I'm like, hey, no, he is working. Like when his rep against Travis Hunter heading out of bounds, where the referees called it incomplete. As these guys, he only gets the 1 foot down, but nearly gets the second one. And I'm sitting there like, oh, that's a great situation. Oh, his contested catch scenario against Jarian Jones. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I see it. He has a lot of those, and he's got a lot of those reps because that's who he came in as a contested catch guy. Not so dissimilar to Parker Washington Jr. And I'm just like, no, he's on the roster and he's everything that I thought he was going to be coming in. And no matter if they put him up against the second string and the third string guys or those first string guys, they're giving him those opportunities. Is he going to have a starting role on this team right now? Of course not with that receiver room. But if injuries do happen, do I feel confident that he may be able to do a little something more than what we've talked about in previous camps, like when we're raving about a third string and fourth string, fifth string guy, and then they don't do anything in the season? I actually do have a little bit more confidence that Josh Cameron could do a little something, and maybe even he shows his chops in the special teams game.
I'm going to throw out to 3 inches. He says he's stationed in Guam, so he's curious about your part of the ball. How's the pass coverage looking with emphasis on the safeties, he asks.
Oh, the safeties? I thought that was an interesting, competition just in general. We talked about it when Ray Lane got his interception, and then you had the Ransall when pads were introduced into the equation. It became a whole different conversation because again, it was Eric Murray getting an interception, it was Ray Lane getting an interception, Antonio Johnson getting an interception. You're like, all right, man, these boys are flying around, they're doing something. Then you get the pads out, and it's like, all right, so now we're gonna find out who can do both sides of this thing. And early on, I mean, again, we already talked about the Chris Rodriguez hit stick on goodness gracious on Caleb Ransall. Right. And that's not great, but that's not his whole practice. That's one play does not mean you had a bad day. It just simply means, hey man, you got welcomed, you got baptized. Now let's move on from that. But overall, now you have that. I think that's going to be the real conversation is if you're looking specifically into the coverage of the safeties, I think they've been really good. If you're looking into being a complete safety and also stopping the run, that's a longer conversation because we've only had 3 days in pads so far. But I think that's going to make or break which one of those guys end up being the third safety. But I haven't seen enough from Jalen Husky to truly make me think it's a real competition between he and Caleb Ransall just yet. I think he needs to take another step.
Hey, but there's nothing wrong with depths at DBs, especially at the safeties with this group. We've seen injuries there as long as we have been covering them. I completely messed up. There was a comment that I was going to play that said that commented on the leadership and how good it is. Yeah,
right here.
this is a Gladstone We Trust podcast here.
If we're talking about coaches, I want Houston, Indy, and Tennessee's coaches to be so fat that their challenge flags.
That was not the one I was looking at, but it's perfectly great. Old bet in the comments. If we talk about coaches, I want Houston, Indy, and Tennessee's coaches to be so fat their challenge flags are trapped under the rolls of fat. First of all, I feel attacked. Second, yeah. So, and then that's pretty great. Real quick, Rukaroro. It's a little too soon to give him straight out love, but is he doing what you would hope he's doing at this point in time at camp, Travis?
I mean, maybe you don't want to call it giving him love. Maybe you just want to call. If you don't want to give the man love, fine. I'll meet you halfway. I'll meet you where you are. I would give him eyebrow raises. Is that better?
Wait a minute. I watered that down expecting I had Travis D. Holmes on this podcast. What the hell is this positivity? What is
No. This is me meeting people where they are. Sometimes you, it's my old pastor to say, hey man, sometimes you got to just meet people where they are. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to meet you. I'll meet you there. If you don't want to give the man credit, even though he's had now 2 good days of where he's like either won in his one-on-one situation or he's flashed on a few occasions in the team period. Okay, then that's fine. It's not my job to sell you on this team. I don't work for the Jaguars. That's not who signed my paycheck. That's Big Cat Country. Like, so at the end of the day, I'm just going to tell you what I see. And I think this man has flashed. I think he does show promise in that way. Will he be more than that? We'll see, because he started off really strong in the 2025 season, and then he kind of fell off the cliff later down the line. Maybe with less snaps, we'll see if he can continue giving you that rotational presence that you're looking for. But I think he does deserve an eyebrow raise at minimum.
Silliness aside, August 21st, I'm expecting to see what he can do a little bit there. You know, not obviously will not draw my entire analysis based on that, but I'm mighty curious to see what he would do in those games, assuming he gets time. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You just keep adding comments in here, don't you?
I'm sorry. No. This is not for the pod. This is for later. This is
for
me to keep on.
The last one I am going to throw here. We did that earlier. Well, I'll do it again because you have it here.
My bad. I was just giving social actor a heads up. You know, Rook is going to keep Arik Armstead healthy for the full year, and I think that's a great takeaway.
That's the question, right? So it sounds like you're comfortable today of him as the load management option.
Sure, right. Okay. You give me 30 to 40% of snaps as a rotational guy behind, Armstead and Devon Hamilton on obvious passing downs. You've won that trade, because Mason Smith wasn't giving you that previously.
No, he was not. But you know what? We've been giving you a wonderful time talking Jaguars. We're over an hour, Travis. It's time to
Hey man, shout out to all of you who've been here from start to finish, man. And if you haven't, that's okay too. That's all you got is a video on demand. You can always rewind and find out all the hilarious jokes, and I'm sure they were hilarious, that you missed early on. But man, yeah, Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, bigcatcountry.com. Support local journalism. And that's not me just saying support Big Cat Country. That is me saying support all local journalism. If it is someone who writes and covers the Jacksonville Jaguars, please support them, because you don't understand how fortunate you guys are to have the guys on the ground who you have, because none of them are paid what they should be paid. And if you think they are, you probably don't. Like, no one's paid what they should be paid. Support local journalism, all of these guys. So shout out to them. This Duval versus everybody else. Duval versus all y'all. Big Cat Country, Duval Dive on TikTok, Duval Dive on X. And if you're listening to the sound of my voice, click the like button. Please do us that favor. Like it, hype it, subscribe, share it out, talk to your friends about it, send it to your mama. I mean, help us, bro.
Here's the other thing too. Preston mentions learn the schedule, come hang Duval. Here's the thing: if you get the notifications, you get a 30-minute heads up on YouTube.
That's it.
They say, hey, yo, children, go watch some Bubble Guppies or something. Anyways, here's a throwback for you.
I ain't heard that in a minute.
And then of course, That threw me off too a little bit. I got to be honest. Oh, by the way, apparently we have somebody that works for Madden EA in the comments. How's the kicker looking because he missed some last year?
Oh, that's
Completely,
funny.
completely glossing over.
I used to work right next to EA Sports at Charles Schwab. That's funny. And yeah, the kicker
Not at Charles Schwab, but I worked in Maitland there too, for sure.
Yeah, kicker looked great. He was. I mean, he didn't miss in the last two practices I saw. I believe it was 4 for 4 and 3 for 3 in the two practices. So yeah, I mean, it looks just fine. I believe one of them was over 50 yards, and in warm-ups he made a 65-yarder. But
great! They'll raise him to 81. It'll be awesome. Anyways, of course, I am Kyle Nash, the Stew of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the Student of the Game. Check out my work with Locked On UCF Night Zone, covering the UCF Knights. Listen, football's in full effect. I'm going to be at UCF Media Day somehow tomorrow. Okay. Shouts to my boss for letting me take a long lunch, I guess. And of course, my work as well, covering the Orlando Magic 1010XL, Orlando Magic Central. Shouts to my guy, RJ Saunders, with the Open Gym and the Magic Moment. And more news to come about my involvement in various things. I keep teasing, but you guys need to be tickling the like button. So for all of you, which you all know in greatness in the comments, thank you so much, Divers, for doing your thing for my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes, Kyle Nash, Student of the Game. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.